Hi everyone, this is the Shop Stool Podcast, episode 4 of season 3. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. Joey, how are you this evening?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Yes. How are you, Robin?
Yeah, I'm good. You make it sound like for a change.
Yeah. Well, it's been a bit of a week.
Right, fair enough. And Brian, how are you going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Just winter's kicking in down here, picking up the lurgy, you know. So yeah, I'm feeling a little under the weather at the minute, as are you. But we'll kick on through with some Panadol and cups of tea. Yeah. I've got no beer tonight. This is going to be the first podcast I haven't drunk alcohol on in months.
Yeah,
it's good. Hopefully, it's not going to be too wooden for everyone listening. Excuse the pun. It's funny. In my day job, we have a Monday morning meeting, and we always laugh because all of us are dotted around the country, and progressively people put on more and more clothes, except me. I'm still in a singlet.
Yeah.
You know, nothing has changed where I am. And you guys down there, I've got a buddy in Tassie who reckons it's just like he's waking up to almost zero at the moment.
It was zero in Sydney on the weekend, I think, on Saturday.
What, like the city?
0 degrees in Sydney, the city.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool over here. I've got the fire on, or it's just dying out.
Love a good Kiwi winter.
Yeah. We probably don't need to light the fire tonight, but it was nice just to look at the flames for a bit.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to start with a topic that could potentially be super divisive, and I have a strong opinion, so I'm ready to make some enemies. Brian and I talked this week about a tin of oil from Bunnings that has been on sale. It's actually been on sale for probably a few months now. I would assume that they are getting rid of some stock. It's I think it's Interbuild is the brand, and it's a little, is it 500 or 250 mil?
These smaller, 250.
250 mil hard wax oil for $2. I had someone recommend it to me a few months ago. Someone who listens to the show, and my experiences were alright, but Brian, you said you've had a lot of complaints about it.
Well, I just saw it, and I saw the $2 price tag, and I'm like, this is too good to be true. And then I assumed, reading between the lines, that it was just a product that Bunnings had bought tons of, realised was absolute dirge, and were just trying to get rid of it. So I took a video of it and stuck it on my Instagram, and it blew up. Like, half were split down the middle going, tried it, it's... what were the words that we used? Somebody called it sewage, somebody else called it excrement, so at least there's consistency. And then I had other people going, oh, give it a chance, you know, it's just because people can't follow the instructions. So I did actually go out and buy a tin yesterday, and I'm going to do a little side-by-side test on a couple of different timbers. So, Joey, if you missed the post, so the thing that caught my eye after the $2 price tag was I looked at the application instructions, and it said, allow finish to fully dry between coats and 1 month of drying time.
Oh, great.
Between coats. Oh,
is that a normal thing?
This is going to be a joke. No, absolutely not. No. You recoat Osmo the next day. Or even, you could do it twice in a day if the conditions were right.
Yeah, I've got the Rapid stuff at the moment for colder weather, and if you use the Osmo Rapid in warm weather, you can do easily two coats in a day.
Yeah, so a month just seems like absolute nonsense to me. Like, it's just the formulation's wrong. Like, it's not tacking. If it's not tacking after a day, there's something wrong.
It's too much natural oil.
Yeah. Which one did you get, Brian?
So it's a weird product. So it's so they'd sold out of the clear, so it comes in tints similar to Osmo.
Yeah.
I think, was it the teak or something I got? So it's not going to be a perfect like for like test alongside Osmo because my Osmo that I buy is the clear stuff. But yeah, it's just funny. Like,
do you think they just bought like gallon, like 100-gallon whatever of it, big drums, and then they have distilled it themselves, or decanted it into little pots, or do you think they just bought pallet loads of little pot loads of it?
I think they bought pallet loads of little pots, like
Because
envisaging somebody might just buy enough to do like a bench top or something in a kitchen, but I don't know. To me, it just reeks of just the kind of crap that you find in Bunnings.
Yeah. I suppose there's no ingredients on it.
There's a huge list of ingredients actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's apparently it's low VOC as well.
Yeah, and food safe.
Yeah. I got the clear, and it worked perfect. I've used it on my little boy's cot. I've created a panel for it. So, that's what I had to laugh at is, all this negative stuff, and I've gone and put it on my kid's cot. I used it on this lampshade that I made, lampshade, which we might get into a bit later, and it's been fine. But one thing I did notice on the tin, and I don't know if yours has the same, Brian, but mine said something about needs to be used within a year of purchase or a year of manufacturing, and mine was like 2019. Way old.
Oh, right. So okay, I didn't notice that. I'll have to check that tomorrow.
I think that's going to be why they are they're selling it off.
There must be some small print in the shop if that's the case. Generally, over here, they would have to say that it's expired or something like that. But
don't know.
Maybe not for paint. Not for like a. You'd have to do that if it was food.
Yeah.
It's just not the most scrupulous retailer, to be honest.
It's really weird.
Hit us up, Bunnings lawyers, but I mean, like all the hardware and stuff and threaded inserts just fall. It's like they're made of paper, like they just fall apart. So yeah, I don't know.
This is the conversation that I wanted to have as a result of this, because I have some strong opinions about Bunnings, and I have some very strong opinions about people who bash Bunnings.
Come on, bring it.
Brian, you've made some comments in the past. You are obviously not a fan of the red and green. That's fair enough. Could you give us a list? I don't know, maybe top 2 reasons that you aren't, because in the past you've made some comments and I thought, I didn't realize that. So it would be quite interesting, I think, for people to hear. Maybe they don't know the dodgy side of Bunnings.
Okay, so I hate when one business just controls the entire market. I hate that it kills independent hardware stores. Like, it's so hard for any other. Like, I think Masters came in a few years ago, and they're still tied to. So I think Bunnings are tied to the Coles Group, right?
It's correct? Something like that, yeah.
And I think Masters were tied to Woolworths.
Woolies, yeah.
And they bought up huge amounts of property anyway, and they failed within 18 months or something. So Bunnings are now at a point where they don't have to give a shit about what the consumer thinks or wants. It's like they just serve them up rubbish and people buy it.
There's definitely...
Because they are the hardware store.
For the few times I've been in Australia and looked around, there's really only Bunnings, as far as I can tell.
Some Mitre 10, but it's not like New Zealand where there's... But,
and so while I probably visit Bunnings as little as possible, it's because I've got a really good choice of multiple different hardware outfits. I could probably go to 10 different independent shops any day of the week and get different types of things and have quite a broad range, and even see the same thing and be able to compare the prices and just see where the price should actually be. But I really, like you, Brian, don't like the fact that you've just got one choice, because Bunnings does not have the best of much. I go to Bunnings, I treat it like just... I know they're going to have a version of the thing. If I'm in a pinch, I'll shoot to Bunnings. If you're out on the job or whatever, I'll shoot to Bunnings and get the thing I need. It's going to be the lowest quality version of that thing, but it's going to, do the job I need to do. If I really need something nice, I'm going to go to somewhere that sells that thing.
Yep.
Something else that I've heard of, and Brian, maybe you can back this up, because I think you would have a better understanding of this. Apparently, the Merbau or Merbu, depending where you're on the country, how you pronounce it, apparently it's not incredibly responsibly sourced.
No,
No,
it's a,
it's
it's a rainforest timber that's coming out of
Indonesia
and Malaysia and stuff, and it's
a little like because we call it Quila here, and the same problem is that for maybe 10 years back, it was just all you saw was Quila, Mubal, everywhere. Every deck was just packets of it around, and at the time, some of the timber suppliers were saying, "Look, we're not going to be able to get this for very much longer, and like we are, because rules are changing, things are happening, and while it's still available, it essentially seems like the logs are coming from shady sources, and someone's there with an FSC stamp and stamps it."
I mean, you can kind of understand it in somewhere like New Zealand, having to go to products like Murabau. We're in Australia. Every frickin' eucalypt species is perfect for decking, pretty much.
And I'd be really interested to see what the practices are like with the spotted gum, which has become more popular, because someone like Bunnings is not doing that unless it's profitable. So, you know, the circumstances around that. Is it better, or is it just as bad except it's in-house?
I'd say if it was in Australia, it would be, even if it was at the worst end of practices, it would still be towards the better end of practices in the developing world. I would like to think so. I might be wrong, but I would like to think so, knowing a few people that are in logging and timber industries here. But it's just driven by bottom dollar, and that's what you end up with when you have a conglomerate that controls the entire market. So they will make a bigger profit margin by throwing you the crap at the lower end.
With spotted gum, if that's the alternative, presumably there's plenty of it. I've used it a few times, and it's much harder and more durable than Mubal or Quila.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I had the choice, I would choose spotted gum. Over here, it's far more expensive than Quila. Well, maybe not far more, but you certainly can't pick it up in decking, like dressed as decking timbers. It comes as like big chunks of wood, like 150 by 50 and stuff.
Right, okay. Not at all like spotted gum decking here. If you go to any timber yard, it's all,
I imagine
all there, usually in a couple of different,
you can get it?
widths and thicknesses. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, I imagine there's some issues with milling it might be more difficult.
It's not fun to work with, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because the labour to mill up this stuff in Indonesia has got to be fractional compared to what you're paying Australian rates for someone to stand and work machinery. So just getting the spotted gum version out the door is going to be far more expensive.
Yeah. There you go. There's my two reasons: the conglomerate, and then the fact that they're able to feed you just the bottom end of every single product, and you don't have a choice. You don't have somewhere else to go unless you order online or go to a specialist retailer. I'll add in a third one. A few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a friend of mine who was a lighting designer had their light knocked off by Bunnings.
Real?
1-for-1, complete replica, available for sale. So
wouldn't have been Bunnings though. It would have been a supplier that Bunnings
they're buying. They've got buyers that work for them that go into China probably, and buy the product. But it was an Australian designer that had been ripped off, and it stayed for sale on the shelves. You know,
what was the option before? Like Bunnings kind of crept in here probably 20 years ago, somewhere around there. What was it like before Bunnings completely took over? Were there other options? Are there like builder supply yards and stuff?
I probably wouldn't really be the best person to answer that, because I've only been in Australia for 15 years. Right. But there's still building supply yards, but the price differential to them. And I still don't necessarily feel as though you're getting the very best product. I just end up having to order all my hardware online a lot of the time, and buy my timber from a timber yard, buy my plywood from a plywood supplier. Yeah. Like a hardware store, it doesn't serve somebody that works in furniture. I still probably go to Bunnings 2 to 3 times a week just to buy like rollers and sandpaper. But even sandpaper, I shouldn't be buying sandpaper from them.
No, I don't.
But it's just the convenience of it.
Yeah.
If I run out of something, just being able to go and grab it.
That's it. And that's a perfect segue into where my opinion lies with Bunnings. I don't think any of us want to buy at Bunnings. We all buy at Bunnings because that's our choice now. But to me, the worst people are the people who bash Bunnings because of not so much about not their practices, so not the big stuff, but the way Bunnings runs, or the salespeople at Bunnings, or the customer service at Bunnings, because people have voted with their wallets, and this is what we've got. So to bash Bunnings is just when people talk badly about Bunnings in that sense, it drives me up the wall. I went to Bunnings and I wanted to ask about cutting dovetails and no one could help me. Of course no one could help you. You're talking to a kid. Yeah. And the reason that kid's there is because that brings the cost down, which is why you keep going back. We talk about convenience. I can't go out during the day to go do my shopping. Well, I mean, I could, but it's a difficult one because of my day job. But I can go to Bunnings until 9 o'clock at night. So, and they can do that because of those cost savings. So, I think I wish Bunnings didn't exist in this current form. But I think if people really didn't like it and they really didn't want to use it, they would stop going there. They would lose their income, and then we would go back to what we had.
That sounds good. At this stage in the game, though, there's no competition. In Australia.
They just turned their record quarter. What was it? Third quarter last year, when lockdown was on.
Oh yeah.
They're turning record, like everywhere else is closed, and they're turning record profits.
Yeah.
There's I've started using a lot of online stores. So you're talking about sandpaper. There's a particular a guy that I go to. He's called the sandpaperman.com, and and that's I mean, I don't know where he gets his stuff from. Hopefully it's not on the back of child labor or something, but that's me not going to Bunnings. There is an alternative. It doesn't have the convenience, but at least there are those alternatives out there that I think if anything's going to compete with Bunnings, it's going to be online stores.
I think people don't realize, probably Joe Bloggs down the road doesn't need to buy crazy amounts of stuff. So you just go and you get your tiny little bottle of glue and you get a little pack of nails or whatever. That's fine. But if you're have your toes in industry, the first thing you want to do is buy stuff in decent quantities, and because the price goes way down. So, for example, I can buy 4 litres of PVA glue from Bunnings for about $78. And for $180, I can get a 20-litre bucket from a glue supplier. So why would you even bother getting the 4-litre one?
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
If you are actually interested in getting stuff, you don't go to the hardware store that everyone goes. You go to the supplier of industry for that thing. So I have reps that come by for just about everything, and I hate when the reps come by, but it enables me to say to them, oh yeah, like one rep company who's actually kind of up with the play, I just text the guy, just say, next time you're coming through, I want 2 boxes of sandpaper, and I want some super glue, and I want some of this and this and this. And 2 days later he just drives past and throws it in the door, and then I get a bill in the email. And that's how you buy decent stuff, like get good quality industry stuff. And you've got to buy, if you want to buy a box of sanding discs, you're going to buy at least the minimum of 100 sanding discs, but they're like 25 cents each.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to work things like that out in a business, though. Like when you start really considering what your overheads are, what your consumables are, and you're like, right, every dollar that I save is a dollar that I could be paying myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes up a long time to work things like that. Like even I buy quite a bit of brass, and like there's a supplier quite near my workshop. There's a supplier that's 40 minutes drive away that sells it for less than 50%.
Wow.
Jeez.
And they're buying it, like the one that's near my workshop are buying it from them.
And selling it on.
And just selling it on at a markup.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of calling around.
Yeah.
But once you've got those list of contacts,
that's it.
Life becomes a lot easier.
That's what it is. It's calling around and actually doing it. Like most of the time, it takes me like 1 10-minute Google search. If I'm after one specific little piece of hardware or whatever, the last thing I do is go and look on Bunnings or Mitre 10's website. First thing I do is just search the thing, Auckland, New Zealand, and there's like all these industries that need that thing, or like I go straight to the industrial source every time and just say, I need this thing. Can you sell me like one of them instead of a pallet load? Oh yeah, sure. You just have to come and get it. Okay, fine. And way easier.
I must say I've bought hinges before, and only ever done this once, but I bought it from a hinge store. The quality difference was unreal. I didn't realize you could have such tight tolerances in a hinge, because the stuff you get from Bunnings, who knows how that door's going to lean once it's closed. But this, I was just blown away. And as you say, Brian, you've got to discover that, and then you go, mind blown. Yeah. I'm going there next time.
Because the fact that Bunnings is selling to a lot of DIYers, especially with things like cabinets, like, are they going to be able to bore a hole for a hinge in exactly the right place? Probably not. So they probably need a proper 3-dimensional adjustable hinge. Do Bunnings sell them? No, they don't. No. So you end up with wonky doors. Whereas the reason why they don't sell them is...
They never offer that next to the hinges.
But do you know what I mean? Because they don't want to upsell the customers, because they just want to sell that bottom dollar product and bring those hinges in by the container load.
What is worse?
Second, that you offer a premium product that's more expensive, that's a niche, it undermines what they do. So yeah.
What is worse? Sorry, you go.
Go on ahead.
I was going to say the worst thing is that those hinges, especially like a cup type kitchen hinge, the ones they sell are worth $1.50, and they're selling them for $9 or $10 each.
Yep.
And I can get really good actual cast ones with soft close dampers that you can turn off or on, or choose to do half strength soft close for like $7.50 each, and like the real deal ones.
And this comes back beautifully to our original topic, which was those oils.
The hard wax oil. So tell us, what was... So you apply with a roller, I think, is a roller, and wipe off excess, right? Yeah,
but before we get to that, I wonder if those hard wax oils were an experiment that just didn't work for them. Because, as you say, that's a kind of a niche thing. It's not the Cabot's range or the, whatever the brands are. They thought, let's bring it in from a woodworking perspective, and it just flopped. And they got to cut their losses.
They probably saw things like Osmo and Livos doing really well, and let's tag on to it. And maybe they got their formula wrong, although maybe it is a formula thing, but it seems for you, Robin, that it worked, which you've got a much hotter temperature.
Yeah.
And Brian, you're down in the cold. I imagine it's probably just that's what it is. That particular finish likes a particular temperature range, and Bunnings might do better if they sold it only in the northern half of Australia.
Yeah. There's some advice for you, Bunnings, if you're listening, because I'm sure you are. I applied it to the pendants lampshade. There was all these little details in it, which is why I went with the oil in the end. And that was literally just pouring it onto my rubber gloves and just caressing the pendant and got it in like that. That was Vic Ash. And then I had one of those, it was either pine or beech panels from Bunnings, and I applied it to that, and again, no problem at all. So I don't know, maybe it was the type of wood that the other people were using. Maybe something like spotted gum wouldn't soak it in as quick.
We'll see how it goes. I'll do a couple of different species and say. But the other thing that confused me was, and this is again obviously them trying to limit the number of deviations of product that they have on the shelves, is that there's no sheen stated on the. It's not matte. It's not satin. It's just like hard wax oil finish.
But isn't that because it's an oil, so it's not a film finish? Therefore,
hard wax oil is.
Well,
a
no,
film
hard wax
finish.
is a film finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hard wax oil is supposed to be a penetrative finish and a film finish. So it kind of gives you that's why it looks natural on the timber as opposed to just a poly that sits on top and reflects all the light. Like this allows some refraction into the wood fibers, which is what keeps it looking natural. But that's why I found it really weird reading on the side of the tin saying, you know, it's perfect for butcher's blocks and end-grain boards and outdoor furniture and bench tops. And I'm like,
it's not everything.
Hang on a second.
And it makes no sense now that because you would have to apply a second coat to get any level of sheen out of it. And if it's going to take a month, well, then it's just a stupid product.
The sheen thing, I'm not sure. Thinking about it, I don't know that. Does Osmo have a sheen?
Yeah, yeah. So the 3060 or 3052.
Is that what
there's they do a semi-gloss, a satin, and a matte. And the matte is really pretty matte.
I used to use Danish oil a lot, and that is not far different in finish to Osmo. I think it's quite different to apply. But the same goes really, like the more coats you put on, the more gloss you're going to get and the more film you're going to get. So really, you can have one product and put one coat on it or 10 and you're going to have quite a different finish as long as you're doing some prep in between.
And you can burnish it and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, you can buff it in. If you've got 8 coats of Danish oil, you can buff that to a high gloss if you really want it.
I made my steam bend chair. When I made it, I finished it with Danish oil for the first time because I thought I'd give it a go. And I was... there's a couple of things wrong with it, and that's one of the things that... I wouldn't say it's wrong with it, but it's not my taste. I didn't realize how quickly that finish built up. Because I'll always choose a matte finish.
Right.
Over... Well, you know, a low sheen at most. And I got up to about 3 or 4 coats of that Danish oil.
And glossy.
It's pretty shiny.
Yeah. I'm just on Osmo's website. So yeah, 3062 is the matte and 3032 is the satin matte. So the satin matte is what I would use on most things.
I'll have to check. I don't even know what I've bought for the job I'm working on.
Speaking of the job you're working on, Joe, it sounds like you haven't had a great week. Well, in terms of getting stuff done, not a client.
Yeah, no, not really the client. I'm doing a job. I'm doing quite a few jobs for this guy, and pretty cool guy. I made him. You may have, if you see, I think maybe it was my last post on Instagram. I've got this big blue front entrance door.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Side lights.
Yeah, really liked it.
So that door has decided to twist.
Is it because you made it out of one panel of MDF?
Yes, it's just one piece of MDF.
It's funny, where have I heard that before?
So, I made it. Originally quoted the job, we were going to do the whole thing in oak and stain it dark and be very traditional with that, and then we ended up, for cost's sake, going to pine. So find all the door joineries out of pine. I said, I'll make the door out of pine. I've had reasonable luck with it in the past. Somewhere between taking it out of the clamp and getting around to putting paint on it, it started to develop a twist. And I was like, yeah, I think I can make it work on the day. But no, not enough. The door just doesn't quite hit the rubber seals all the way around, and it kind of interferes with the lock a little bit. And there's a bit of a rattle when you shut the door. The bottom kind of wobbles a bit where it's twisted out. There's about 4mm, 5mm of twist at the bottom. So I said to the client, I'll come and play with the hinges, and I spent an hour trying to do things with hinges, and that wasn't going to work. So I said, bugger it, I have to make you a new door. So that's what I have to do. So I'm changing my timber species. And
I was going to say, what type of construction did you use?
It's like full mortise and tenon floating panels, properly done, old school.
Right, so it wasn't the method, it was definitely the species.
I think it's...
Well, that particular timber, I should say.
I think what happened was, so the door has a traditional large bottom rail, like 250mm rail, and the mid rail's 250mm. And to get those two pieces of 250mm wide stock, I glued up a couple of bits of wood to get a wider piece, which is pretty standard. But I think those two, or certainly the bottom rail, didn't like getting glued up, and I think that bottom rail is what has caused the issue. Because I feel like after I glued it up, I just feel like those bits weren't working as nicely as they should have, but I kind of carried on with the job. But so anyway, now I've got myself some expensive cedar, and I'm going to do it out of yellow cedar. So
not to bang on about door construction, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I've cut open one of these solid core doors that you buy. It's the sort of the flat panel on the front. And when you look at the two styles, I think it is, they are made up of like a few different pieces of timber. You don't have a solid wood panel. It's almost like a few pieces glued up together.
Yeah.
And I remember an Andy Rawls video where he went in depth about how to make doors, and he also touched on that. So are you making it out of solid pieces of timber?
So are you talking about one big flat panel door, like just a big chunk of wood that's dead flat on both sides? Or?
No, so on the two styles on either end, so on your left and right hand side, instead of having, let's say your style is, 200mm wide.
Right.
Instead of having a solid piece of wood that's 200mm wide and 35 thick, you've got a few pieces that make that up, because then you
can do it that way.
Is that not the only way to do it to ensure stability?
So traditionally you would only have solid timber, and typically you'd get quarter-sawn stock. The problem these days is if you want a nice timber finish, like you're using oak or walnut or something pretty, you can't really easily go and get quarter-sawn solid stock. Or if you do find it, it's going to cost just outrageous amounts of money, which we could get into if we've got time in a minute.
And then you wouldn't want to go ahead and paint it as well, hey?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to go paint on it.
Because then the YouTube comments would hate you.
Yeah. So what people have been doing in that case, if you're having a timber finish, what they'll do, I forget the term for it, but what you do is you have like a cheaper core of your styles, and it could be laminated stock, ideally, because it's more stable, and then you would veneer that with, say, 3mm thick veneer of your choice, and then so you're essentially making a door out of like veneered posts. And it's way time consuming, but it's probably in the long run a safer way to go. But I don't know. I don't think I've had any clients who would pay what that is worth to do.
And wouldn't that be more stable as well, because you've essentially created a basic form of plywood?
Yeah, I mean, way stable. Really nice way to do it. So making doors with solid styles is like being done forever. It's probably I wouldn't like to guess it when they started making these other veneered styles. But so I've not ever gone down that road, because I've always been a bit of a believer of traditional stuff has worked for a long time. But up until now, the pricing has been at a point where you can get away with it. But anyway, in this case, so pine was the go, didn't work. In this case, I'm going to use yellow cedar. Hopefully that works. But kind of the client had a few tweaks he wanted to change on the door, so I've just got a couple of texts and photos from him saying, hey, can you change this thing and make it a little bit smaller so this molding is here instead of here, and we'll change the color of the door now because we didn't actually like the color in the end. So,
that color, I loved it. I
like
thought
that color as well.
So classy.
He wants it darker and more glossy. So okay.
Yeah, I guess that'll still be good, yeah.
We'll do that. So it's kind of cool getting a second chance at it, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass because I'm now going to make the door in the workshop, and the lock and the hinges and the seal, that I've got a pop down seal on the bottom of it as well. That's all in the door currently, keeping the weather out. And so I just took a gazillion measurements, and I'm going to try and cut the mortise lock and cut all the hinges in the workshop without any of the hinges or the lock or anything. So I've got to trust my measurements.
Risky business.
Yeah.
Bryan, have you done much this week? Well, actually, I saw you got a table out.
Yep. Yeah, I got a coffee table out at one of my Star Map ones, the dish table. I got that out. Got rid of those end grain boards.
Nice.
The ones that were the client ordered ironbark and then realised he didn't like ironbark when he saw them. So, it has black butt boards, so I got that out. So that was a good thing to tick off. I'm working on serving boards for Maha Restaurant. Nice restaurant in Melbourne. A set of them. I've made several sets for them before in the past, and they're just coming back for some more. And about to start a big built-in job for a client. And
are you going to manage that with how is your knee doing?
It's okay. It's all right. Sort of muscles coming back, but yeah, it's still. It's more just I feel it at the end of the day now because I'm doing more in the workshop after 7-8 hours on my feet. It's I need to sit down when I get home, but I've got a 1-year-old to deal with instead.
Yeah.
But no, it's getting there. So yeah, a built-in's going to be a bit challenging. So I've kind of broken it down. It's like a pantry, shelves, and a media cabinet that all sort of are in the one piece. So I think I'm going to start with the smallest pieces and work my way up.
And are you going to use some plywood for that then?
Yeah. It's all film. It's all film ply. It's nothing fancy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. Clients designed it. Film ply and some spotted gum veneer ply. So yeah, that's I'll get that out, and then I've got actually quite a good design job doing. It's a client down in Mornington Peninsula has a house down there, and they want 3 wall-mounted kind of media units and a bar and a bookshelf display that all have a sort of a similar language, but in different places in the house. So that could be quite good. I think there's a relatively good budget attached to it, and I think they're going to have enough to do it all in solid timber, so that would be nice.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, got a bit coming up,
nice,
which is good. It's good after a few quiet months.
But, and in terms of that plywood, are you starting to feel the pinch that the rest of the world seems to be?
So Maxi Ply are the suppliers that I use down here. They've been pretty good. Like their lead times are still reasonable on a lot of the stuff. I know they had a product called Koskian plywood, which it was like a color tinted ply that had a protective film over the top, so you could see the grain of the ply through it.
Yep.
So it was really like it was pre-finished, so just cut it and make it in the kitchen. So I know that they've now are no longer stocking that.
Right.
But everything else seems to be available. Touch wood. But yeah, that's kind of and going back to what Joey was saying about the old creeping up price of timber. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of months.
Well, it's funny, we were talking about Bunnings earlier. I haven't noticed any change in their prices, but their stock is just, it's hit and miss. There's no one of the, without getting back into the conversation, one of the reasons I find myself going there when I've got a client project is that I know I'm going to get 64 by 19 mil, and it's always going to be there, pretty consistent. Now, like you get what you get what you're given, and that's it. So it's clearly even affecting them.
I saw in the Bunnings near me the other day, all the pine stud was gone. Everything.
Yeah.
Which is just weird looking. It's like looking at empty shelves of toilet paper.
We can't get anything my timber yard said we can't get anything over 4 meters, I think 4.8 maybe. I think there's no more 6 meter logs available.
Right.
Which seems odd. I'm not sure how that suddenly has happened, but they stopped growing. I don't know. But it's the cost. Actually, I don't know if we were recording when I mentioned that my timber supplier has put prices up 30%. So that's for exotics, like that's cedar and walnut, and then everything else is going up from 15% and up to that 30% mark, depending on what the species is. So it's outrageous. I don't know. The cost of some of the timber is just so crazy. I'm not sure what I'll even offer people at this stage. So
it's a tricky thing trying to explain that to a client, that a 20%, 30% price rise in material is pretty big.
Yeah,
I'm trying to pass it all on to them. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, it's all just coming down from the shipping companies, and that's all the timber suppliers just passing it off on me. So what can you do?
You guys should have been drying your own timber. I'm just going to say it. I've been doing it for years.
So I have this huge job that I quoted for this massive kitchen cabinetry job. It's about $70,000, and the client just called me because I emailed him and said, "Look, this cost of timber's gone up, which probably won't affect you, but who knows what's going to happen to sheet good prices in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
So be prepared that the cost might go up." And he said, "Yeah, all good. I understand that. Can we just buy it all right now and you hold on to the stock?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not sure. Let me have a think about it, because it's like 100 and something sheets of whatever it is I need.
Oh my God.
Where am I going to put it all?"
You're stocked up for the next 5 jobs with that.
So I said, "Give me a timeline and I'll think about where I can stack it all in the workshop." So
it's delivered to their garage, Joey.
Well, the building's not up yet, I don't think. But that's not a silly idea, because he said I think he does have a storage shed, so maybe that would be the way to go.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
So this week I was able to get out did you guys see the lampshade by any chance?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Saw it on your Instagram.
I'm really stoked with how that turned out. It was when I was sort of thinking up the design, I didn't think too much of it because it was fairly straightforward. But it was only when I built it and I looked at it and I thought, this is all right. This could maybe even be in a magazine. It's got some really cool lines to it. And so I managed to get that out. I've also been I've sort of touched on it in the last couple of episodes, that I've been working with TimberCon for their Pony Jorgensen clamp promotion, which has finally come to an end. Just a quick plug. Their Pony Jorgensen clamps are amazing. It's been so cool to get those clamps in the shop and be able to, particularly the spring clamps. Man, everyone needs spring clamps in their workshop at some point. They are the most handy things ever. But they're I-beam clamps also. Yeah. They're heavy duty. Geez, they work well. And then this week I've also put forward a bit of a written document. They're putting together an ebook as part of it, so all of their brand ambassadors have got to put in some written article about themselves and some photos. So that's going to be coming out soon, which I'm super excited about. So I feel like a lot of these sort of sideline jobs, making videos for people, doing this promotional stuff was all go, and it came to an end because that pendant light as well, that was for Carbotech. So there was a video for Carbotech.
But you're working with both sides, eh?
Yeah, and I've every time I talk to them, I say to them, "Are we cool? Just you. I don't want you to find this out." And they always say, "No, that's absolutely fine." So, gun for hire. I'm not not leaning to either side.
The light looks really good. I like the photo you posted from the underside, looking up at it.
How cool is that?
It's really cool. The notches
fins, the fins reflecting through that big globe.
Yep.
this weird it turned out so cool. So yeah, after this, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've just finished making this. I was busy editing a video before we got on. I've made this stool, and there's going to be a little promo in it about the Shop Stool podcast, where it's a big LVL. It's about 360 wide and then 60 thick. This is what they used to prop up the roof when we opened up our kitchen. And I've cut squares out of it, but on a 45. So now when you look at the legs, you just get these vertical lines. So it's cool. Like that would be considered rift sawn, right?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky with plywood, but something like that.
It's like the ultimate rift sawn timber because it's perfect on all four sides.
I get what you mean. Yeah, so you vertically ripped like a square piece of the plywood stock. You ripped a bit of the 60, so you had a bit of 60 by 60 plywood, but then you cut it. So you saw the vertical lines on each four side.
Yeah, so it comes down to like a 40 by 40.
Yeah, right.
You've taken that square and rotated 45 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's first going to making a stool. Figured out a lot of stuff that works and doesn't. It's not a pretty thing. Like it works, but it's not pretty. Not an elegant thing. It's certainly not like the pendant shade. But yeah, so that'll be out next, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do. It feels quite freeing. All right,
that's cool.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
No,
let me rephrase it. Anything else you guys want to talk about it within 5 minutes?
Yeah, no, I'll talk about this next time, so I'll save that one.
I was gonna say I listened back to the last one with Alex. I thought it was a really fun podcast. So we've got to get more people with her kind of energy on to drag us through sometimes.
Prop us up.
Yeah. That was an awesome episode.
So and, if anybody's got suggestions of people to interview, just DM us.
Yeah, that's a really good idea actually. Yeah, let us know. I'm really keen to see these planes when they come out.
Yeah.
She's been working on.
Yeah. It was actually quite cool. I was my intern Viv was on the front cover of Wood Review today.
Yeah,
I saw the picture. Yeah, that's cool.
So shout out to her. We might even drag her onto the podcast.
I was gonna say that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's leave it there. So, to everyone listening, thanks very much. If you did enjoy the show, please go ahead and give it a rating on iTunes. That really does help us out. The Shop Stool Podcast is available on most podcast apps. Joey and Brian, thanks again for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Cheers. I promise I'll be back with alcohol next week, guys.